My name's Aldo with Boondock Baits, and this is why we fish. That's why we do it. Jig is this guy right here. So you got a lead ball with the hook, weed guard, and some skirt material. This is supposed to mimic a crawfish. Bass love craws, big part of their daily meal. It was warm this last week. Crawfish are kind of coming out. They're starting to unburrow and come out and click on rocks, and that's just music to bass. So they're going to come out looking for crawfish. We have a lot of cover, and we're going to be flipping into some pockets and hopefully find some big ones. I personally use this Loomis rod. I love Loomis. Extra heavy with a Casitas reel. It's an older reel, but it's got a great drag system because what I'm doing is I'm putting my jig into some really heavy cover, and it requires a really tight drag system to pull these big guys out and flip them over these docks. So 50-pound braid is a must, minimum 50 to 65-pound braid, because these guys don't play around. They don't want to come up. I want them to come up. So I need some heavy equipment to bring them up. When I come up to a dock, first and foremost, I don't own a big boat. You know, I'm just a regular guy, so I fish a lot of docks. I approach a dock really slowly, really quietly. They just stocked with some trout, so we got some guys out here. Trout guys will come out here and bang up on the dock and maybe spook the fish, so I like to approach it really slowly and really quietly. When I approach a dock, I like looking for darker spots. So you'll see that these tulies kind of break off there. There's a little dip in there and some in there. The further back we can kind of get, the better. But they come out too. So I already have a good 3 or 4 spots that I plan on hitting, and we'll see if somebody's home. So once I actually get into the desired pocket, I give my line a little bit of slack. It's very important. A lot of the times with the right trailer, I'm using a double-tailed grub. It kicks on the way down. You'll get picked up on the way down. So it's very important to kind of be really aware of your line. So I give it enough slack where it's free falling down without any kind of disturbance. And if you see that line jump, he picked it up on the way down. In this case, I hit the bottom and I'll flick it. I'll pop it up and down, feel the bottom again, pop it up and down. And a couple of my secrets that I've learned through the years of doing this is when you suspend the jig mid-air or mid-water there, it's not on the ground, you vibrate it, and that skirt really pops, it really flares, and that's where you're going to get the majority of your hits. That's where I get my hits. So right here, I'm off of the ground. I'll pull the line up, and I'll just kind of twitch it. Just twitch it around, and after about a minute, 2 minutes in that pocket, if nothing's hit me yet, I move on to the next one. Punching and flipping, it's a finding game. I could be 2 feet from another hole where I'm not getting hit, but I'll move over 2 feet and I'll get hit. So it's just one of those things. You gotta find them, and that's honestly the fun part about it. You're hunting these bass, and it's a fun experience. For this application, flipping and pitching, you have flipping jigs. They have a pointier, heavier nose. They're designed for this kind of work. I personally use a football jig, just because if this isn't working for me and I want to open water and I want to work a dock and I can drag it just the same, I can throw this right into the tulies just the same as I can put it right next to a dock. So for me personally, it doesn't matter. There are better jigs for it, but they're going to hit this thing no matter what. If they want it, they're going to hit it. They don't care what the head looks like. Obviously, during the winter, really, really cold times, we're up at a high elevation here, so we get a lot of snow. Last year, we got so much snow, and just the weather was just long that it really pushed that spawning time. It pushed it out. So jig fishing was hard, you have to really slow it and size down when it's that cold. Right now I'm throwing a 1/4 ounce, which is a perfect size basically anytime. But my application right now is a little faster, a little more aggressive than it would have been a month ago. A month ago I was dragging it really slowly. Now I know they're here. We had great weather last week, and it's bringing them all out. They're kind of staging up right now where it's going to get really good. So I know they're there. The rain that we had a couple days ago might slow it down a little bit, but the water is not that cold right now. So we're hoping that they're still here, and we're going to find some. I just want to catch some for you. So you have to pay attention. These things will grab it and let it go. And as I was turning over to my other side, it picked it up. I felt the tension, I felt the hit, and by the time I swang, the jig was out of his mouth. So it happens a lot. I try not to let it happen. It's embarrassing that it happened on film, but you know what? It's part of jig fishing. You're gonna slam them, and sometimes you're just gonna miss them. And right now I just missed one, so it happens. Your hook set needs to be clean. You're basically breaking through the top of the bass's mouth, which is a really hard spot to break through. That's why these jigs have a thicker gauge wire hook. But you're also fighting this weed guard, you're fighting any kind of stuff that's in there. If he grabs it and runs towards you, you gotta be prepared for that. So your hook set has to be clean, it has to be hard. It's not a finesse hook set, you gotta lay into this thing. You want a hook set at an up angle. If you're hook setting and your hook set sideways, most of the time you're gonna rip the jig right out of his mouth, okay? You have to create a little bit of slack in between that hook set and that fish. So what I mean by that is you feel a thump, okay? You feel that pressure, reel down, create a little slack, and snap it. Snap them up. If you just apply pressure, it's basically like you're just reeling it out of his mouth. He's got the jig right in here. He feels that pressure, he's gonna let go, and that jig's gonna come fly down. So reel down and put your back into it. Bop. Now, at this lake in particular, there are a few types of fish. Right now, it's heavy with trout. Heavy with trout. You have bluegill, crappie, carp, catfish, but bass is obviously what we're looking for. When I approach a dock, like I said earlier, you approach it softly, quietly. And sometimes you just have to be really vigilant. I walked a few steps over, and those tulies on that side, they moved. So something was there. I hope it still is. But when you approach these things, look at your structure. If it's calm like it is today, and that tule for no reason just does this, you know, that's a big hint. Something was there or something is there. So a big part of fishing is knowing your environment, knowing the water temp, the time of the year, and overall your structure. Where can I find a fish? Is the bass going to be there, or is it going to be here? So in this case, I'm going to start working this little side of the dock just because those tulies moved. So we might find one there. You have to adapt. I'm throwing this way. If he hit here, that hook set would be goofy as hell, but I'm going to set it. This side, same thing. I think somebody who starts off at the shore and does mainly shore fishing will do extremely well on a boat, because on a boat you have everything around you, it's open. Here you have to work for what you get. So weird hook sets, weird pitches, you're working, you're grinding to get that fish. And I have more respect for that than some pro out on a boat. So It's a weird hook set, man. I'm pitching off to the right, and I swing left, and he thumped me. And I swung, and I had him on. I had him on for like 2 seconds. So he felt every bit of that hook, and I don't know if he's gonna be in there again. Ah, man, it gets your heart racing though. When you're flipping, you're basically feeling your jig free fall, and you're popping it, and when you least expect it, pop, you feel a smack. And I'm not talking like a tick. You feel a smack, and your whole hand and your rod goes whoop. You know he's got it, and you gotta set that hook, man. I set it, but it was kind of like a weird angle, and it wasn't enough to get through him. So he was on for like a millisecond, and he came off, and I got hung up on that tool. But if you see the spot I threw into, that says I'm home all day long. That hole right there says somebody's home. I'm gonna see if he wants it again, but when you miss a hit like that, very few times they'll come back and hit it again, especially if they felt that hook. You basically have one, maybe 2 chances. In this scenario, he doesn't want it again, if he's even there. But that's just the game we play, you know? You got one chance, and that hook, it has to be clean. Sometimes I'll suspend the jig and just vibrate the hell out of it. And sometimes it pisses it off so bad that he comes back and smacks it. Not because he not because he wants to eat it, because he's pissed. In this case, he doesn't want it. So I think I missed this opportunity, and it sucks. There's a professional angler, and I really like him. It's Mr. Swindale, and he talks about the jig. And one of my favorite lines is, "A bass ain't got no hands, it ain't got no pockets. So if you feel that thump he's got in his mouth, blister him." And I was like, oh shit, it's true. If you feel that hit, he's got it. There's no way he ain't got no safety deposit box. Blister him. This is my favorite jig. I throw this color about 90% of the time. This is a Bad Ombre bluegill. This is a bluegill imitation. This lake is covered in bluegill. Little orange, little green, some blue. During the spawn, they can't get this off their bed fast enough. This is a pretty neutral color that I usually go with. It's like a purple or brown. Great combination. That's my go-to right there. There it is. About time. Nice, maybe 2-pounder. Chomp that jig. With these guys right now, it's hit and miss. In about a month, they're gonna be loaded in these toolies, ambushing anything that comes through. Luckily, I saw a nice little dark area. So I like hitting dark water, because you know that water goes in deep, and those are ambush points for him. So somebody was home, and there he is. Especially out here, these guys for me mean a whole lot. I see people online mistreating them, throwing them all hard, banging them up. If you notice, most of my flipping over, when I flip them over, I try to be as gentle as possible. I don't want to ding this guy up. I want to make sure that he's good to go for the next 10 years and he gets as fat as possible. So showing these guys respect is key, because this is why we do it. That's it, man. Yeah. I started Boondock Baits shortly after my first jig bite. If you've ever had a jig bite, and I hope you have, it's addictive. It's a great bite. It usually produces bigger fish. And the more and more I got into jig fishing, I said, you know what, I can I can make my own jigs, make the colors that I want, and maybe produce some fish. So I went out, did my research, got the stuff that I required to make my own product, and word of mouth got out. You know, there's this kid making these jigs and they work. Okay, so next thing you know, I was giving away jigs every day, and I was like, I can't keep doing this. So I had one guy, his name's Kirk from Bass in the Hood, and he came out here to this lake to show us some of his baits. And I was showing him mine, and he said, what are you doing? Like, these are great. Like, you need to be pushing this. And I said, you know what? Never really crossed my mind as far as, you know, selling them to that level. But he said, freaking do it. And he helped me. The thing about the fishing community is they're regular guys like me and you. And aside from wanting to support your local guy, they like the fact that it's handcrafted, and I'm not a big company. I'm not some guy that doesn't care. And if you message me, I message you back. You have a question, I answer it to the best of my abilities. So I'm just a regular guy just like you, but I make jigs. So that's where Boondock Baits started, and I don't know where it's gonna end, but I hope it's something good. There's a few things in life that really complete, you know, a person. And for me, this is one of them. I've been fishing since I was a little kid, and ever since catching my first tilapia, yeah, it was a little tilapia and then a carp, I was hooked instantly. And I find it to be the utmost therapeutic thing for me. Everybody has ups and downs. Everybody has hang-ups in life. And you know what? If you don't have an outlet, if you don't have an escape, a healthy escape, things can get really bad. I had a lot of like losses in life. You know, my sister had cancer, and my mom had cancer, and all that stuff. It can eat away at you. And if you don't have an outlet to get out and get some of those emotions out, things can get really bad really fast. So for me, this has been life-changing for sure. This has been my therapy, my outlet for a very long time, and I wouldn't change it for the world. So it's great. I'll be out here every day of my life until I hope I die out here. You know, it's just it's that beautiful to me. So if you haven't, pick it up.